Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is part 2 of What If Isagi and Shido were brothers. As always, if you enjoy, make sure to show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. It seems like y'all have been enjoying the series so far, or at least part 1. Y'all really enjoyed it. So, with that said, I'm not going to waste that much more of your time, and let's get right into it. Let's get it. And after the first game would finally be over, and Isagi has finally awakened the new version of football he wants to play for himself, he's now ready for the game planning and just flat out ready for the next match. The next match would actually be against Team Y, and Team Y would pose a couple issues, but those issues would more or less be kind of this odd and weird playstyle of a single set play. They would have one Okawa and Nico kind of set each other up for a goal, but more like Nico is setting up Okawa. Now, this would be a pretty simple playstyle, nothing too over the top and nothing too fancy, and frankly, even though it's nothing crazy and nothing fancy, he actually has a good amount of success, at least off the rip. He's able to pass the ball deep and pass the ball pretty easily to score their first goal. But quickly Isagi can tell that it's all about shutting Nico and Okawa down, but quickly after they score their first goal as well, being that it's an easy setup leading from Bachara to Isagi in the box or in the penalty area, he would easily score the first goal. He would set himself up basically to draw the defense in. But after scoring that goal, it seems as if Team Y just wants to play keep away. They continuously just pass the ball back and forth and back and forth. They don't really want to even deal with anything else. They literally just want to do keep away, which does confuse Isagi just a little bit, because at the end of the day, he wants to play football. He doesn't want to watch someone pass the ball around kind of stupidly. And this would frustrate him just a little bit, and kind of that version of himself, the older brother version of himself, the Shido side of him obviously, would obviously show, and he would begin blitzing the team. And this is the fastest they've really seen Isagi run in a while, if not ever, and he begins to try and steal the ball from them. And eventually he would steal the ball, and he would take it himself and immediately dribble through with some aggressive dribbling and score once again, putting them up 2-1, in which now Team Y realizes that they do need to score. But scoring at this moment is not going to be easy. Frankly, it's going to be one of the most difficult things now that they're going to go through, because Nico is now completely keened in on in terms of who Isagi needs to guard. He knows now that everything's going to flow through Nico, so he knows everything that he needs to do at this moment is to more or less set up his own team, is to shut Nico down. And with his just strength, raw athleticism, and frankly all of the attributes he has, he's able to guard Nico as if it were nothing, and he takes him down exactly how he thought he would be able to, and he was able to steal the ball on multiple occasions and obviously set up multiple people for multiple goals. But their idea of playing keep away and more or less trying to keep the score down is kind of a way for Team Z to not score like crazy, at least at the moment. The fact is, I mean, when you kind of play keep away for that long, it doesn't matter how good a team is, eventually the score will kind of plateau out. So yes, Team Z would come out with the victory, and Isagi would be able to get some goals for himself and also goals for some other people. But yeah, I mean, it kind of flops in terms of the scoreboard. It would end up just game ending around 4-1, which is kind of not as impressive as Isagi would want it to be. But at the end of the day, a win is still a win. So does it really matter at the end of the day? Not really. Isagi's team would win, and frankly, he would show off even more what he's capable of, but this team wasn't a team that would really draw much out of them. There wasn't that much aggressiveness, and frankly, their game plan was an extremely passive one, so it kind of ended exactly how it probably should have ended in terms of what they were truly capable of. But with that said, Isagi would look forward to the very next game, because that's all they could really do. Look in the future for the next game to come. The next game to come would be against Team W, the same team that has the Wanama twins, in which the Wanama twins are an amazing duo, very similar to the Shido brothers, but obviously him and his brother are not even in the same area because of their difference in stats and abilities at the moment of the scouting that Jinpachi Ego did. But even Ego knows to a certain extent that their separation could only mean for betterment of themselves, and frankly, they might become an even more dynamic duo due to the fact that they're completely separated. But with that said, Isagi would kind of be able to take on the Wanama twins for the sole factor of, or just be able to easily take them on through the sole factor of knowing how these duos work. Because at the end of the day, he personally was in a tandem duo, so he's able to kind of read it pretty well. And when the team W tries to take this into their own hands, tries to more or less utilize their own skills against Team Z, it's pretty apparent that they kind of fall behind to a certain extent. Yeah, the Wanama twins may have some skills and may be able to have some capabilities, but overall, it's just not it. Isagi and his team would struggle a slight bit initially with the defense in terms of covering the Wanama twins, but once they get started, and once Isagi cuts off one of the Wanama twins, completely alienating them, well, it's pretty obvious that it's almost impossible for them to score, in which they would score one goal, but Isagi would follow up with a goal of his own, and Bachira would as well. Bachira and Isagi would create a pretty insane tandem as well because of the dribbling and passing ability that Bachira has. The ability to get the ball into the box and eventually Isagi scoring with ease would kind of be an insane combo for them personally. But even with that, he also has the ability to kick it back out to Kunigami, their long-range scorer, in which he does that on occasion to kind of keep the other team on their toes and keep the other team guessing exactly what he's going to do. They can't just triple team him within the box or try to put a bunch of players on him and swarm him and overwhelm him, because guess what? He could easily just kick the ball back out. And when they try to team up and cover Kunigami, his strength and his just body type is just unbelievably able to kind of shut down anything that others are capable of. Isagi would easily find different and more effective ways of scoring goals over and over and over again, and it seems as if Team W is just continuously falling behind, goal after goal, and at halftime it would already be 5-1. And it would be pretty impressive at what Isagi is able to get out of this team, especially because, well, he wasn't really expected to be this type of player. Yes, it's different, and Isagi decided this on his own, but at the end of the day, he wasn't going to be this type of player, or wasn't really set up to be this type of player. But now he is. He's one that is selfish and wants to seek for his own goals, of course, but he knows that he could also set up many other players on his team, more or less to score goals and have success. And that's just flat out the truth. Isagi knows this, and he wants to utilize every bit of it to his advantage, which is a perfect player, someone that could draw in the defense, especially a striker that could draw in the defense and utilize his own skills to not only score but also kick out to anybody that needs to be kicked out to, is absolutely insane, because he's a threat to score a goal but also a threat to give someone else set up for a goal, which is absolutely lethal. And after halftime, Isagi would continue with the domination through his sheer physicality and obviously their coordination, or at least somewhat coordination as a team. But toward the end of this game, he would actually see glimpses of somebody else, and it seems as if they got motivated from seeing all of this and seeing the success that Isagi and his team was already having, and that would be Chiguri. He did speak to Chiguri a little bit, but he wouldn't speak that much to him. He had no real intentions of trying to convince him to play nice, but it seems as if once Chiguri realized that all of this stuff that is happening right now is made from Isagi, and on top of that, there's no way that they're going to be dropping out anytime soon, he might as well release all of his anger out on the Wanama twins, in which if he wants to release all his anger out on them and he wants to show them what he's all about, he needs his speed. So he forgets all of it. He tries to throw away all his fears of hurting himself once again, tearing his ACL once again, and he steps into a brand new world for himself, sprinting forward. Chiguri is now racing down the field, and Isagi sees him, giving it to Bachira as Bachira would set him up for a beautiful pass. He would score a goal, and the Wanama twins would honestly fear what they're seeing. I mean, look at what's going on. Chiguri is back, and his speed is back, but they have these dynamic players that make them seem unstoppable. It doesn't even seem fair that they're all on the same team. But, of course, the reality of this is that it all took a meshing of all of them to truly make them great. Because if they were all uncoordinated, if they were all refusing to work together, and they were kind of simplifying the ideas of scoring goals to basically how a normal team would score goals, then, well, their team would be nowhere near as good as it is right now. And that's just the reality of the entire situation. Everybody simplifies things way too much. But what happens when talent overcomes everything? It doesn't matter if it's super simple in terms of what they're able to do, and it doesn't matter if only 3 players are able to kind of coordinate and work properly together when you have talent like the next team they're about to face. The next team they're about to face is also 3-0 in basically their record. 3-0. Yeah, it's Team V. Team V is absolutely insane, and yes, both of them are up 3-0 in terms of record, but doesn't mean that Isagi and anybody else wants to just let this one go off easy. They want to actually try their absolute best, because if it's true that this team is special and extremely lethal, they want to see what they're truly capable of, in which that's exactly what Isagi's going to do. He wants to see what they're really capable of. And before the match would even begin, though, they would actually meet for kind of this in-between dinner, but it was kind of on accident. Isagi would meet the 3 main players that are on that team, being that of Zentetsu, Reo, and Nagi. And they would meet, and he would meet Nagi, and he would absolutely despise Nagi. He would think that it's ridiculous. This idea that this guy is so lazy, but supposedly he's such a good player, and it kind of annoys him. Yeah, he's good unconditionally as well. Like, he didn't have to train super hard to be super good. His genetics just helped him out so much. But at the same time, he still loves this game of football. So much so that he even dealt with his psychotic brother and played with him, and even found a way to enjoy playing the game with his brother, even though he's kind of a psychopath. But still, he would watch as kind of Isagi, or excuse me, he would watch as Nagi just like sits there and says that he's bored of football and that he doesn't care and that this and that, he would rather sleep and do this or that. And this would annoy the absolute heck out of Isagi. I mean, obviously, this would just annoy the hell out of him, because he's just over this idea that Nagi thinks that, oh, Blue Lock's just a joke and that it doesn't matter anyways. And it seems as if he hasn't been taking this thing seriously at all. So he tells Nagi that he's going to make sure that he is taking it very seriously once he shows them how useless they are while they're on the field. Isagi would storm off, and he would get ready for the next game. And when the game against Team V would begin, let's just say this is absolutely insane. a new version of Isagi, one very similar or more similar to Shido than anything else, would kind of show out. Because off the rip, they would score a goal, but he didn't realize that this would be one hell of a shootout. Because Isagi would immediately score his first goal via Bachira's beautiful pass, and he would score with some aggression that even Bachira hasn't seen before. But right after that, Isagi would more or less see as Nagi and Ryo's connection would be absolutely insane themselves, and frankly, that's just the truth of it. Ryo and Nagi are absolutely insane together, and when he sets up a pass to Nagi and scores a goal, well, immediately Isagi realizes that he's going to have to mark Nagi and shut him the hell down. But right after it becomes 1-1, Isagi tells his team, that they're going to make this a absolute bloodshed, and he's going to make sure that they don't even give up a single inch from here on out. If they score, we score, and it's going to be like that all game long. In which they were right. That's exactly what happens all game long, at least to the fact of if they score, we score. Isagi wants to make sure it all goes their direction and all goes their way, so immediately he puts himself into the forefront, in which Bachira and him make for the insane tandem that would absolutely cut through Nagi's team's defense or Team V's defense. And it would actually be insane what they're doing. And Bachira would never see someone so aggressive in his life. He's never seen a striker this aggressive. It actually blows his mind to an extent. It's pretty crazy in his opinion. But even with that said, Isagi finds his goal, and eventually Nagi would find another one as well. Because at the end of the day, it's really hard to adjust to Nagi's kind of height, ability to control the ball, and so on and so forth. But after a couple more goals, Isagi would finally find his way and finally stop Nagi from scoring. And eventually, his aggressiveness and his ability to kind of just overpower Nagi would be the way that he needs to stop him. Unable to make him or allow him to make moves off of his ball control, Isagi would completely lock down Nagi to the point that Nagi himself would be forced to evolve to the furthest extent possible. And his evolution may make for some crazy tricks and some crazy moments, but at the end of the day, it seems as if he still isn't enough. Nagi is still not enough to more or less stop anything. It seems as if Nagi realizes that Isagi's more or less strength is kind of just overwhelming at this point. It seems as if even though he's able to use his ball control and kind of maneuver at insane ways and try to bait Isagi into certain directions, it seems as if it doesn't even really matter at the end of the day. It seems that Isagi's not falling for it. His reactions are way too good, and it seems like his spatial awareness for defending is only increasing over and over and over again. Is actually insane. Isagi is actually straight up adapting to what Nagi's able to do, and it seems like he's even more or less kind of widening his own horizons in terms of what he's capable of outside of compared to what his brother is capable of. Shido, don't get me wrong, can defend, but now Isagi's kind of bridging the gap even further using his physicality and his spatial awareness that he now understands even greater, maybe even greater than his brother, but less of a more striker mentality awareness to the largest extent so that he can guard and just completely shut down Nagi. And the complete elimination of Nagi from this game is more or less what occurs. Zantetsu may get a goal here and there, and Isagi's team would continue to just lap Team V, leading them to a kind of embarrassing scoreline for Team V. It seemed as if they didn't even have defense, and the game would end about around a 8-5 scoreline, and this would be embarrassing for Team V because it never felt as if they were ever pulling away. It really never felt that even they had a chance at the end of the day, which kind of frustrates Ryo, but also frustrates Nagi to a certain extent. Nagi really wants to get better now, and frankly, the motivation that he has is all from Isagi. Isagi is just a different type of player, a player that plays so oddly in a way, but at the same time, he's so interested in what he's capable of. But that's not much to think about at the moment, because they're not even sure if they'll be able to even work together or even play together or even play against each other in the near future. Being that all the games are now finished, Jinpachi Ego now begins his, speech to everybody there currently. He tells them all that it's really simple, that this was made for them to learn exactly what this whole striker thing was all about. What they could do to evolve to becoming greater strikers, and on top of that, what they could have done to work as a team a team of 11 strikers. But obviously, whoever won and whoever got through kind of figured it out. But obviously, there's also some other people that got through just based on goals, which that could be some people that will be revealed very soon. Ego would tell them all, though, that it's now time for them to actually train. So everyone there goes through a very serious and very intense regimen to get ready for the next part of the selections. The second selection would actually entail them kind of being more or less solo or individuals. They're going to be scaling and figuring out what they can do individually, at least to a certain extent. And after all the hard training, working hard and trying to elevate their bodies to a new level, it's now time basically for them to step into the next selection. The very beginning of the next selection is the definition of an individual performance. They start with something known as Blue Lock Man, which is a holographic goalie that seems to be more or less this absolute and undeniable adaptive goalie that will continuously get better and better throughout their training. But at the end of the day, what they have to do is actually score 100 goals in 90 minutes. Isagi thinks that this is a pretty fun thing to do, and he finds some new ways for him to score some of these goals, and he does it really quickly. And at the end of the day, he's able to do this extremely fast because of the evolution he's gone throughout this time. He's expanded his range, his ability to see and do certain things. So even if he's not scoring that much within the box, it's actually still pretty easy for him to score anywhere else. And his absolute strength is able to carry him through this and thread the needle on every single shot he has against Blue Lock Man. After it is all said and done, though, he walks through those doors, and when he walks through those doors, he gets this rush of excitement, this idea that he can now take on so many different people. Because at the end of the day, he came here with his brother and he hasn't even seen him yet. So there might be a chance that he can face his brother in the near future. As he looks around, he actually sees a decent amount of strikers currently there. And he would eventually see Nagi and Ryo standing there as well, but eventually someone from behind would jump on him, and that would be Bachira. Meguru Bachira would speak with him for a little bit, asking if he wants to team up, and of course Isagi wants to. The chemistry that they have together is extremely good, and his passing ability and his ability to kind of get it within the box for an automatic goal is something that is kind of freakish. Now, with that said, the decision for the third player would need to be made, and their decision would actually come easier than you would think, because one actual Nagi would walk over and ask if, Isagi wants to join Ryo and him, in which obviously Isagi would say that he can't, that he's obviously in the same team as, Bachira, that he can't just leave him, in which Bachira says that at the end of the day it is his choice, but he tells him once again that they're a duo. He doesn't want to leave Bachira behind by any means, in which that would be pretty apparent and pretty obvious, so he wouldn't do that. But Nagi would then say that it's fine, that he then asks if he can join them. Ryo would be confused and wonder why he wants to do this, why would he leave him, in which, of course, he would tell him or tell them that, or tell Ryo more specifically, that he just wants to know what football is like with Isagi. I mean, it seems as he's created an even greater monster in Bachira, and it feels as if now he can maybe make a even greater player out of Nagi. And Nagi is more or less very convinced of this and just wants to play with Isagi and Bachira extremely badly, and that's exactly what he'll get. He'll be allowed on the team, and the three of them would walk through those doors. But the three that they would be facing down is a team that they wouldn't really expect. And frankly, nobody would expect at the end of the day, because all three of these people were unknown to them, because they haven't seen anyone like this or anybody or any people like this in general. And those people that they run into are actually some of the top players in Blue Lock, being that of Rin Itoshi, Aru, and Tokumitsu. And these are some pretty interesting figures, one of them being kind of extremely timid and shy and unsure of himself, one that thinks that everybody, or that he is super glamorous and that's what the type of football he wants, and the other one is stoic. But he does have a number 1 on his shoulder, and this intrigues Isagi to a large extent. He's very interested in taking on this person and seeing what he is truly capable of. Maybe this will evolve him to a larger extent as well, something that he's interested in as to a large extent too. So he challenges the team of Rin, and Isagi's team would take them on. And quickly he would realize the absolute fear that Rin has been putting into people for a long time, and he's sure that he's had success for a long time as well, because on the field they would get Shido or Isagi, obviously Yoichi Shido, Isagi's team would get a quick goal, but Rin would just respond with kicking the ball immediately off a kickoff. Rin would see things that many others wouldn't, and he would be able to kind of predict things unusually. But at the same time, Rin might have ran into the worst team he possibly could have in Bachira and Isagi, because they're not predictable at all, and Nagi seems to be absolutely unpredictable in terms of evolution. So Rin has a lot to keep up with, and quickly he realizes that it's almost impossible to stop Isagi once he gets past the penalty area. Once the ball comes in, it's impossible to stop him. Even when they put Aru on him to kind of use him for a bigger body, it seems as if Isagi has an ability to kind of section him off entirely. And as they go for the next goal, and as Isagi goes for his next goal, Rin would collapse on him. But just as he collapses, he does something unpredictable, at least to Rin at this moment. Isagi seems like a person that doesn't play for the team, that he would just score over and over again, but quickly he would realize that to not be the truth, because once he collapses, he makes a beautiful tap pass out to Nagi, allowing Nagi to score as well. Rin sees this, and he's pretty impressed, but also frustrated. He didn't think that this guy was all that, and now it seems like he's threatening to stop Rin in his tracks, in which he takes this personally. Rin would then go up and score multiple goals, and figuring out a defensive strategy pretty quickly against Isagi's team, putting them up 4-2 eventually, in which Isagi would kind of be frustrated by this, and he would be so frustrated to the point that he would find his own goal in a very unorthodox way. Rin can't stop him, Aru can't stop him, and frankly, he's just using his anger and just obscene strength, even against people like Tokumitsu, to just power his way through, aggressively scoring. Now, it's about keening in on Itoshi Rin. How is he supposed to stop him? And is there even a chance that he can stop Itoshi Rin, at least from scoring the final goal? Well, you'll have to find out if Isagi's team can overcome this 4-3 deficit in the next and final part of What If Isagi and Shido Were Brothers. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. And I hope you all have an amazing day. Later.